Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of ThinkTank Thursday. As you know, I am Candi Kelley, and I'm excited to be spending this time with you. On Thursday, TrainerTainment likes to take a little bit of time away from the doing, and we know it's super busy out there right now. We want to spend a little bit of time thinking about things that can affect and enhance your business. And today we have a really important topic. But before we get there, I've got to thank my 2021 digital sponsors. You see them all on the side there. We have People First, Schaefer Distributing, Embed, Expert Hosiery, Redemption Plus, Simnox, Hager Communications, Creative Works, and our guests come from Party Center Software today. And so the reason I'm bringing them on, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second, is because there have been a lot of questions about chargebacks on the industry forums out there, how to prevent them and how to fight them, and are they really occurring more often post-pandemic than pre-pandemic? And so instead of having all of these questions without solid answers, I thought we could bring on some experts. And so I brought two people on from Party Center Software, and I will let them introduce themselves now.
Thank you so much, Candi. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick screen share here. So don't mind me a minute as I load this up. Can everybody see the screen okay?
We're good.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you for having us. We're excited to be with you and happy to be talking with you, even though this isn't a happy topic. And sometimes, we've got to talk about the tough things. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, is talking about chargebacks, how to prevent and fight them, and just a little bit more detail about what's going on in the industry with chargebacks. So I want to do a huge thank you to TrainerTainment. Thank you, Candi, for setting this up. We know how important this topic is right now. It's very timely. It's always occurring, but right now in this moment, it seems to be causing a lot of pain for people. So we are glad to be talking about it with you guys today. Excuse me for 1 second. I got to move my screens around here. So just to give you guys a quick little intro to who we are and why we're talking about this topic. We are Party Center Software. We're powered by Party Center Pay, which is a processing system. So we have a lot of experience on the back end with chargebacks, unfortunately, but fortunately for this conversation, because we can really speak to it. And in case you don't know who we are, what we do, we're all about automating your booking process and making your processes more streamlined and efficient. So stop chasing and start booking. These are some of the services that we offer: online booking, point of sale, digital waivers, and so on. So you can imagine, with what we do, our customers oftentimes do see chargebacks, unfortunately, in their facilities. And just a little bit about who we are on this call. I'd like to introduce you to the legend, Eileen Hawkins. She is our lead customer success manager. She's been in this industry for over a decade. Eileen, do you want to share a little bit really quickly about your experience and what you have experienced at both working in the industry and transitioning to Party Center Software 6+ years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the industry since 2008, and it was, it's a fun industry. I had 3 facilities that we ran, and I ran into all kinds of issues of double booking and all kinds of craziness until I said, hey, we've got to have a software. So Scott Drummond helped me set up. And it was history, everything was great then. So I could actually focus on the business. And then I said, what fun, once my facilities closed, I said, where can I go to, and do this and stay in this fun industry? So I ended up working for them. So I'm a customer success manager, and my goal is to make our customers' day as easy as possible, because you've got a ton of things that you're doing. So, and I've got a lot of information about chargebacks because we deal with it daily.
Absolutely. And I just have to throw out there, Eileen is awesome.
Yes, I can vouch for that. Eileen was my customer success manager when I was in operations. And so I can totally vouch for how awesome she is. But I did not know we shared the same year we entered this industry. I left restaurants and entered the entertainment in 2008 as well.
Awesome. Yeah, Eileen is the best. We were just talking about how she has a goal of getting to emails in less than an hour. I don't know. Most people can't get to emails and that quickly. So she really takes care of our customers, and especially in the area of chargebacks. She has a couple of larger customers that do experience chargebacks, and we'll talk about the numbers and some stats so you guys can get a feel for how many chargebacks is normal, how many chargebacks should I expect to see, because that's the thing. Some people see them and some people don't. We'll get into those numbers. Now, a quick introduction on myself. You can see it's on the screen here. Rebecca Twomey, I'm the Director of Sales, Marketing, and Customer Success here at Party Center Software. I've really been loving working in this industry and working with you guys. I have a background in business building. So I am all about what can we do to improve the bottom line? What can we do to improve business, improve processes, build a playbook, all that good stuff. That's what I love to do. So this topic is important to me for that very reason, because I see the importance in getting a hold of this from an operational perspective to create a more efficient business for yourself. So chargebacks isn't the most exciting or joyful topic. It's stressful. It can be frustrating. It costs you time and money. But we're going to be real with you guys today about the state of chargebacks, what we've seen, what we've experienced, a couple examples, what's changed, and how you can prevent and fight chargebacks at your facility. So let's talk about that. Here's our agenda for today. Oh, we're going to talk about the industry. We're going to do a little Chargebacks 101 to kind of give some background in case you weren't familiar. Hopefully you are. Some tips on how to prevent and some tips on how to fight if you do get a chargeback. And then we will open it up for Q&A if Candi has some questions, additional things that we want to add to this conversation. So first things first, the nature of chargebacks have changed since facilities reopened post-COVID. Chargebacks have always existed. Before COVID, they existed, and now they exist, but they seem to be different. And they're different in the sense that customers have changed. They are more demanding and less patient and also less understanding than they were before COVID. I don't know what it is exactly. I can't really put it into words, but it seems like a lot of people just don't want to put up with anything anymore. They don't want to deal with it. And perhaps some of it also could potentially, this is my own speculation, could come from the fact that people have been ordering things online during COVID. If you think about it, not going into facilities or into stores as much, ordering online. And when things are wrong, they're used to dealing with customer service, getting their money back, that type of thing. If you take that concept, again, it's just a theory that I have, and you apply it to now they're back in person, they're going to places, they're used to kind of getting their way, if you want to think about it that way. So we're seeing less understanding customers, but that's not to say that they're not all understanding and you shouldn't try to work with somebody in the event of a chargeback. This is just to say that we've seen some changes in the way that people are doing things. Okay. The next thing is we want to talk about some tips. So while I did mention that people are different, if you can talk and communicate with them while they are in your facility, that is the best way to prevent a chargeback from happening. If you make sure that your customers are happy while they're there and that you can resolve any potential negative situation, you can potentially avoid a chargeback. Now, that's not to say there aren't going to be those people that you just cannot satisfy. Some people you can't satisfy. And then there are also some people that are scam artists. And so we're going to address that a little bit because there are scammers out there. And the thing that we've noticed about scam artists is they often share the scam with other people. And so you'll sometimes see a recurring scam happening, but not every chargeback is a scam. So I want to be cautious to phrase it that way. Not everything is someone trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Sometimes there is a legitimate reason why someone is issuing a chargeback. Okay. The other thing that's really, really, really important here is to focus on training your customers to, first of all, spot these red flags, to spot any potential trouble before it comes, and how to deal in the situation. Many times employees don't want to deal with tough situations. They just say, all right, this is going on, I'll try to do what I can. And if they aren't equipped to do it, it's important that they have a manager that they can go to who's going to come into the party situation or whatever the situation might be and try to resolve it. Eileen, I'd love for you to speak to this a little bit because you have experience in-house with this and working with customers with this on how to kind of calm down that situation when someone is upset.
Yeah, absolutely, Rebecca. I mean, I think if you're training your employees and you're empowering them to fix the situation, then they will feel better at doing it. So body language. I mean, you can tell by someone's body language if they're having a good time, if they're upset, and and address it immediately. Because if maybe you're going to give them a bounce back coupon, maybe you're going to put $5 extra on their card immediately. Maybe you're just going to let them feel heard. But the quicker that you can, resolve that issue, then possibly they will not actually have to go and do a chargeback. So I think communication is the key. I mean, we need to make sure that what we're communicating what we sold them, if we sold them an incredible memory, we need to make sure that we did that perfect party for them so that they don't have the need to do a chargeback.
Yeah. The other thing is the phone, right? Is paying attention when you're on the phone with somebody for a red flag. I listened back on a call that, first of all, and I don't want to jump ahead here, but when you're in the chargeback process, you actually can't submit audio as evidence unless it goes further to arbitration. Then there are other stipulations. Every situation is different, so I can't speak to every single one. But for whatever reason, this customer couldn't use this audio, but we listened to the audio because they had it. And it was red flag after red flag after red flag on this call. The employee should never have taken down that credit card information from that person because when they got to the payment thing, started yelling around the house, I need a credit card. I need a credit card. And they got some random credit card, maybe it was grandma's or something, and used it. And then after the party, they charged it back.
Right.
So it's very important to train your staff to look out for things and to share the policies ahead of time, to say the card that you'll be using needs to have your name on it. And we'll be asking for that card when you come in along with your ID. Set the stage so that they know they can't come in and scam you. Right. Would you rather have someone not ask and then they come in and charge it back and you lose and now you are out $500 on a party? Or would you rather them disqualify themselves by finding out ahead of time, well, shoot, I'm not going to be able to run my scam on this facility. Right. So be cautious.
I'm sorry, Rebecca, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I know in this industry, typically, a lot, grandma wants to buy or uncle wants to buy or somebody, they all want to use different credit cards. But just keep in mind that if the person that's booking the party doesn't have the ability, the authorization to use that card, you could get that chargeback. So,
absolutely.
so just be cautious. I mean, I know that, people love to have 2 or 3 credit cards on one party because everybody wants to pitch in, but maybe have them give them cash and they use their own credit card.
Sure. Or better yet, we have Zelle, we have Venmo, we have PayPal.
Exactly.
Great. PayPal me something, Venmo
absolutely.
me something and have them pay on their own credit card. You're going to avoid a lot of headaches by doing this. I'm telling you right now, because if they come back and it's fraud, that person is not the person that is in the party hosting that party, could be in trouble. Right. So we wanted to actually talk to you guys about a couple of examples. We're going to leave it fairly generic. But these are a couple of different situations that we've seen that were pretty wild. So Eileen, tell us about the person who purchased $1,000 in gift cards and charged it back.
Yeah, I mean, you would never think it would happen, but the person knew that they were going to do it. They bought the $1,000 worth of gift cards, and on their way to pick up the gift cards from the store, they called and did a chargeback. So they got the gift cards, picked up the very same day within hours of purchasing it, and then they charged it back. And also when they were there, they booked a birthday party and wanted to use the gift cards on the birthday party. So immediately I'm like, cancel those gift cards, because the customer is going to, possibly win this chargeback. And then they're going to have the gift cards too. So, I mean, I know you think that, that surprised me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But then that's not the only example. Another crazy one was we had an upset customer, and they, and we said, let's try to appease them in-house. Well, that's exactly what they were doing, but they were wanting a refund. And they said, well, the card was stolen, so you can't give me a refund on the card that I did the payment. So they gave them another card to do the refund on, and then they charged that back. So it was double fraud. They got triple their money.
They got the money refunded
Yes.
to a different credit card, and they
Right.
charged back the original, so got back that money. So not only did they have a free event,
Right.
but they made money on
Yes,
it.
they did.
I thought about this, Eileen. I recently made a return to a store,
Right.
and they said, I don't want to give the name just in case, but it was a baby clothing store, and I was doing a return, and I didn't have the card that I had used when I made the online purchase. And she said, oh, it doesn't matter. Just give me any card. And the thing that stinks is I only had my husband's card with me, so he got the money, but but I thought, I couldn't stop thinking about that yes. Technically, because she refunded it to my husband's credit card, I could have, it's our mutual card. It's not technically his credit card, but I technically could have gone back and charged it back from that original card and done the same thing that this person did. So
yes,
be careful
absolutely.
about this.
Yeah. So we definitely want, not everyone's a scammer. I want to put that out there. Very small percentage are scammers. Yes. But, and then this other example
this is an example of that. Not everyone is necessarily a scammer. Right?
Exactly. And it's rare. This particular example is rare. I've had, 25 birthday parties on a Saturday, on every Saturday and more, and this had never happened. But anything can happen because children are active, and stuff happens. But a customer was upset because they claimed, which, they claimed a piece of furniture fell on their child. Now, I don't know that actually happened, but if it did, we should have gave a game card, a gift card. We should have addressed the issue immediately and tried to resolve it that way, go above and beyond. But instead, I don't know if it was just not noticed or the correct a manager maybe was too busy. But anyway, it ended up in a chargeback, and they won. Obviously they won, but I'm thinking we could have saved it if we had, addressed it head on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So let's talk about that a little bit, Eileen. Some observations aside from, these were just a couple of examples that we wanted to share with you guys, but we also noticed some things in some of these chargebacks we've seen.
Yeah, there's a trend, in the outskirts of your metropolitan areas, there and people are figuring out how the chargebacks work, and they game the system. And that's how it works. The word of mouth can either be good or bad. And in this case, it's not good. So what we have to make sure that we're doing is just we're being diligent, in deterring those, because if you're diligent in deterring them, that will spread too. If it's difficult for them to win and difficult for them to scam you, then that will spread just like wildfire as it would if they won.
Absolutely. And I know it probably kind of makes sense to most people that the more populated the area is, the more likely you may have a chargeback, right? But also the more likely you may have more customers. right? You may
Absolutely.
have a higher number of transactions.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about next are stats and statistics. How common is it to see a chargeback? So let's talk about that. Okay, so I'm using PC Pay, Party Center Pay, our processing system, as the example. And of all time PC Pay transactions, 0.00034% have resulted in a chargeback. So you may say, okay, that's a pretty tiny number. It is. But what does that mean? First of all, it means that only 1/5 of our customers have actually had a chargeback. So 4/5 of our customers haven't received a chargeback at all using PC Pay, but 1/4 of them have. And now let's compare that to, okay, so if 1/5 of our customers have had a chargeback, 0.00034% of all transactions, what happens for those 1/5 when they do get a chargeback? 1 in 4 of those chargebacks are won. Okay, so 1 in 4 win. Now, we pulled some data to make sure that we were in line with the industry. We had access to over 30 companies that are in a very similar space, a booking space where they do online booking. They also do in-house transactions. And their number was identical. 1 in 4 of their chargebacks were won, so 25%. So if you happen to be part of that 1/5 of folks that are experiencing a chargeback, just know that 1 in 4 are probably your chances of winning. So you'll likely lose 3 out of 4 of those chargebacks. And it's frustrating. It isn't a fun thing, but it's because of the way that chargebacks work. And we're going to talk about the reasons and things like that. All right. So, and now I do want to note, of our customers that have had chargebacks, the number varies by percentage. And that's what you really want to pay attention to as a business owner is, what is my chargeback rate? And so I'm going to show you how to find your chargeback rate and figure that out. The industry maximum for chargeback rate is 1%. There's a little article linked here on the bottom. If you wanted to check that out, you could simply Google average chargeback rate and it'll bring up more detail about that. But here's how you calculate it. You're going to take your total chargeback cases per month. So let's say you get 3 chargebacks. Your total transactions per month. So say you have 30,000. And that is going to be your chargeback rate, which is also known as your chargeback transaction ratio. So that bottom formula there gives an example. 100 chargebacks per month. It's easy to work with tens here. 100 chargebacks per month over 10,000 transactions would be a 1% chargeback rate. Now, my guess is your rate is going to be a lot lower, and hopefully it is. But here's what we want to point out about this. If you are seeing a chargeback rate of 1% or higher, there is a problem and you have to address it. It may be that your facility is being overrun by scammers who have figured out how to run scams. It may be that your facility has issues that you need to take care of, perhaps cleaning problems, or people aren't receiving what they think they're receiving. There are so many different reasons it could be. But if your rate is 1% or higher, that's when you're going to need to sit down and say, what is going on here? And what do I need to do to fix this? So let's talk a little bit about chargeback reasons. Now, we're giving 5 categories here. The first is fraud or no authorization. So Uncle Benny, you given his credit card. Uh-oh, I got kicked out. You guys okay? You still see this? Can you still see it, guys?
It's back now.
Yeah, you're back.
Started over though, huh?
Yeah, it did. We get to run through it real quick.
There we go. Okay. Fraud or no authorization. The second is cancel recurring billing. So if you do recurring billing, that could be another reason they'll do it as a chargeback. products or services, so not received, not happy with it, those types of things. Liability shift. And a liability shift is a change in how banks and processing networks handle certain types of credit cards. So if they aren't set up for chip, they might be on the hook for certain things. This category is a little bit broad and can be kind of confusing. And then there's other. So this is a broad category where other things don't fit. But what I want to point out is these may be the 5 buckets that we're talking about, but there are actually over 151 distinct codes among each of the 4 major credit card companies. And so they're grouped in these 5 categories so that we can try to understand it. But there's going to be, and every credit card company uses a different number code. So it may look like 14.5 or 14.6. It all depends, but there are so many, we could never address what all of them are, but we want to kind of give you a little example. In a couple of slides, we're actually going to share 2 articles that we wrote, one on how to prevent chargebacks and one on how to fight them. Within that article, we do provide some examples of some of these reason codes. Now, when you, or if you get a chargeback, you'll get that code. You'll get a very small amount of detail. You're not going to get, a letter on their reason for it. Think about it. When someone calls to do, yeah, I'm issuing a chargeback. Oh yeah, it was stolen. So you're not going to know all the details of that, but you can look up that code, research it, and try to figure out what that situation might be. All right. So we've got a little
Rebecca,
bit of a flow for you here.
Before you move on, I wanted to address one thing real quick. I'm sorry. But the one that I like to see is the products and services, because I feel like that is the one that you can change. If you are getting a lot of ones that say product, I didn't get my product or service the way I thought it was, maybe we need to look at your website on how what you're saying and what you're offering, and make sure that all your employees are trained to give exactly what is on that description.
That's a great point.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. And we're talking about Chargeback Flow, which you have a lot of experience with. Now, I want to just preface this with, and you're going to end it with this, but let's repeat it. Maybe we'll repeat it 7 times so everybody remembers. The person who decides whether you win or lose a chargeback is your customer's bank, the cardholder's bank. Right. So wherever that card, if Jenny Smith charges back on her credit card, it's Jenny Smith's credit card company / bank that is making the final decision. So we as a processing company have no ability to control the situation. All we can do is help our customers submit their evidence and pray that that evidence is exactly what that company would need to show what's going on in the situation. But I want to preface it. Eileen's going to say it again, but just remember, if we can make the decisions, we would make sure all our customers won too.
Absolutely. I would say every one of them
won. They want to keep their customers happy, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly why. And what's crazy too, though, in the chargeback flow, I mean, a customer has 120 days from the transaction. So you may even, I could have forgot what I bought 120 days ago, but
I forgot what I bought yesterday.
I know. So they got 120 days to file that chargeback. And then what happens is the money is removed from your account that day, the day that they file the chargeback. And then once we start fighting, the money is credited to your account temporarily till we know if we're going to win. And then we get the final verdict, which is made by the cardholder's bank and the closure after the decision. But so what I'm going to say here is, seeing how the cardholder's bank is making the decision, when you're addressing those chargebacks and putting together your fight, which I know we're going to talk about later too, but I want to go ahead because it's so important, is they don't know your facility. They don't know your policies. They don't know the first thing about your facility. So we cannot assume that they know our refunds are our deposits are non-refundable. You know what I'm saying? Because because we have to prove that the customer knew that it was, non-refundable, and then we got to have the bank, the person looking at all these chargebacks that have, because it's increased so much, that she understands it or he understands it. So, and arbitration is not available for all chargebacks.
So let's stop for a second, Eileen. Let's talk about what is arbitration.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry. I jumped.
Just want to make sure everybody knows, because, we do this every day.
I know. So once you get your final verdict and you're like, well, that's not, correct, and you want to fight it again, some chargebacks you can, and it's called arbitration. So a board of people will look at your stuff. So you do have a better chance, I think, of winning, but it's not guaranteed, because you have to give more information. And then if you lose, it could cost you anywhere to $500 to $1,000.
Yes. Whoever loses in arbitration pays the fees.
Yes.
So if the credit card company, the cardholder's credit card loses technically, then they would have to pay. But that cost, that fee could be anywhere between $500 and $1,000. It depends. So if you are offered the option of arbitration, you want to make sure that it's on a significant amount of money. And like Eileen said, not all cases you're not going to have an arbitration option for all chargebacks. If you do, you will be told you have the option. You could also ask, so nobody says anything to you. You could say, am I eligible for arbitration? I have the evidence needed to win this thing. But you need to make sure that you do have the evidence, that you do have exactly what you need. I mentioned earlier, you can't use audio in a chargeback, but sometimes they allow it in arbitration. It all depends. Right. You can include it. They may be able to use it. They may not. But it's so important to take notes on things when things happen. That's the other thing that we've noticed that is an easy fix for folks. If you have an upset customer, make sure you log a note in your database about it while they're there. Open up their file. Especially if it's a birthday party, you're going to know who they are, because how many you have the names of people. Open it up, especially if you're using Party Center software. All right, let me open up that party, click on notes, and add a note about the situation, because you never know if that might be able to help you in these situations. And like Eileen said, if they come in and they file this chargeback, 119 days after the event happens, then you may not remember all the details of this, or you may be the manager or the owner of the business and not have even been a part of this in the first place and have no idea what's going on. It all depends on the situation. So the more detailed you are in what goes on in your facility, the better chance that you're going to have. And hopefully you don't have to get to this point of arbitration, because it is a risk. You have to weigh the risk versus reward. If it was a $2,000 transaction and you have all the evidence plus more that you could use beyond the chargeback, you may want to try it. But I can't give advice on this.
Right, exactly.
That's the other thing, is it's very hard when we're in our position, because we get asked all the time, what should I do? And I can't tell anybody what they could do, because they need to make that decision for themselves of whether or not they're willing to take the risk. We can look at their evidence, and we have so here's something else we haven't talked about yet. Not all processors allow you to fight chargebacks. Right. We have talked to a couple of FECs that use certain processors that don't even fight chargebacks at all. If you get a chargeback, that's it. We fight them. And not only do we fight them, but we have a special chargeback team. We actually hired on someone who had years of experience with chargebacks, who she's like a pit bull, you guys. I mean, she's not like a pit bull personality-wise. She's the sweetest person you'll ever meet. But her goal is to make sure our customers win. And she's pretty honest and will say, we're not going to have enough. This is not enough evidence for us. Perhaps they didn't list something properly on their policies or paperwork, and that could be a potential problem, that kind of thing. She will consult with anybody in going through this experience to see how she can help them. So, it's good to have people on your side, but at the same time, you're making this decision as a business owner at the end of the day. So let's talk a little bit about how to prevent chargebacks, because the best way to not deal with chargebacks is to not have them at all.
Absolutely. Exactly. Avoid
if
them.
if you're watching this think tank, you're already doing something. You're one step ahead of the rest because you are being diligent and proactive and you're learning everything you can. And that's what we want to encourage you to do. Learn everything you can. Go online, Google. There are 1,000 articles on the internet about chargebacks and what they are and learn about what you can do to prevent it, and absolutely check out the articles we wrote because they're specific to our industry as well. You want to learn everything you can on how to avoid having them. Make your policies super duper clear and make sure your guests understand them. You may have people sign off on them. You sign off on them when you're making an online purchase. I check this saying that I understand the policy is here, right? And assess why you're getting them. We talked about that earlier. They're not all scams. So why are you getting chargebacks? See if you can find trends. We have done so much detective work, Eileen, right? Trying to figure out trends. And it's tough to find. There's no trend overall, but within a facility, you can see some trends and try to figure out what the problem might be. Make sure, I think that this is going to be advice that we use, but make sure that you're using your chip readers, because that is a small thing that you can do to help, but we're going to talk about that.
Well, and you know what, in regards to that chip reader too, Rebecca, sometimes customers come in, and this is a red flag, and this is about being observant. They come in, they're like, oh, my chip doesn't work. Well, it's because they made their chip not work. That was their whole plan. They scraped it so that it wouldn't work, so that you have to manually type it in. But ask for another credit card with the chip that works.
Sorry, we only accept chip. I mean, if I was in your position, I would do everything I can to protect myself. If it's a large trend, if someone's spending $5,
right?
Okay. But if it's hundreds of dollars, you want to make sure that you're taking that money the right way and avoiding any potential problem. And body language, like Eileen said, look for those shifty eyes. They're looking around, things are looking a little funny. Chances are they might be trying some. So we have a couple of tips. This is more detailed out in the articles that we keep talking about. So there's a lot more detail to it, but just to kind of summarize it a little bit, over the phone transactions, you want to make sure that the information is matching the customer information. We talked about uncle's or grandma's credit card. Make sure that you are matching customer information. Now, it might be hard over the phone and all that good stuff, but make sure they know that when they come to the facility, your credit card is going to need to match your driver's license when you come into the facility. Again, you make the rules. Disqualify them. If they don't, if they're going to scam you, you don't want them in your facility anyway, right? Let's see. Over the internet, some things that we've recommended lately are taking a lower deposit. We think it's always good to take a deposit because you're getting some skin in the game and you're reserving that time slot. But instead of taking a $200 deposit, consider taking a $50 deposit to avoid any potential chargeback of the initial deposit as well. Make sure you have AVS match turned on your website. This is standard for all of our customers that AVS match is there. And then again, when they come into the facility, match that credit card. When they're in person, have them use the EMV machine, the chip reader, ask for their ID. The more you can confirm their identity, the better chances you have of that type of fraud happening. Now, we're referring to one specific type, which is, this isn't me, I didn't do this, I wasn't here type of fraud. There's so many different ways that someone can, or reasons why someone would issue a chargeback, but these are a couple that might help you out. Eileen, was there anything you wanted to add here?
Well, I was just going to say when you're taking on the over the phone transactions, I mean, if you're using our software and using PC Pay, you could just send the invoice with the secure payment link, and then they could put it in, and you would avoid that whole ordeal, because I would prefer not to take it over the phone at all.
Yes.
If you can make a policy
yes.
to do so. So yeah.
Great point. Great point. Don't take it at all.
Right. Yeah.
Good. All right. So we gave a couple of quick tips. Again, we're going to give Candi a link to those articles so she can share, and they're going to be up here so you can see them too. But now let's talk about how to fight. How to fight. Eileen, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, be prepared to provide the evidence so needed to win the case, and how far are you willing to go? I mean, the first step would be, if you did not resolve it once once they complained in your facility, or you read the body language and you couldn't resolve it in the facility, and as soon as this chargeback comes through, you need to call the customer to see why, to see if you can't resolve it. Now, if they say they're going to not do they're going to like reverse the chargeback, we still need to be prepared with the evidence in case they don't, so all your notes, all your reason, everything need to be where whoever's reading it knows exactly what happened that day. And be diligent on the code. When they give you that reason code, if they said the card wasn't mine, well, then that's a tougher card. That's tougher to prove. But if they say, I didn't get what I was told, or whatever, that's easier, because if you can show in emails that, here's the description, here's exactly what they got, then you have a better chance of winning. And put it all in a nice PDF so it's easy to read, because the people at the bank that are getting these, they're inundated, so we want to make sure that they can make that, decision quickly and it's obvious.
That's a great point. If they have 17 attachments, they're going to, okay. Yeah. They lose.
Right. They may only open up one. They may not even get to the attachment that, so if you could push it all onto a PDF, that'd be wonderful, because that just makes it so much easier, and do some highlighting. I know it seems like a lot of work, but if you want to win, I mean, that's kind of what we have to do. And in course, your state and where you're at has different rules too. So be prepared that if you need to take them to court, do so. If your state allows you to, and be sure to present your information in that deadline, because we only get so much time to.
And it can be really fast. So when you get that chargeback, they're going to tell you when you need to get your evidence in by. Right. It could be days, it could be a week. They're never going to give you a month, just so you know. It is going to be fast.
Yeah,
so
it's normally a week.
Quick. The first thing that you're going to do is decide, am I going to fight this?
Right.
If it's $25, save your time and energy and just move on. Right. If it's over $100, that's probably where you're going to want to start considering fighting, especially if you know that the situation, when you look at the chargeback type, is incorrect, or something about it doesn't seem right. But, you have to be in it. If you're going to decide that you're going to fight it, make sure you provide the evidence. So we actually have a couple of things on here for fighting chargebacks. Collect all your evidence, combine into a PDF, like Eileen said, with notations, submit it prior to the deadline. If you go after, they're not going to consider it. So these are some ideas. This doesn't include everything, but some potential evidence might include the party order, payment history, detailed payment information, activity logs, so those notes, order receipt, agreement to a non-refundable deposit, that type of stuff. So there needs to be evidence that it was either provided to this customer or in the process of the way the customer paid for services, they agreed to these terms.
Right. Also, Rebecca, if they're a Party Center software customer, they can put a lot of this information in their policies and have it where the customer agrees to it before they actually book online. So, and maybe you've not had the need, to have these policies there, and have them check it. I agree. But if your percentage, if you're getting a lot of chargebacks, let's do that. Let's take a look at it.
Absolutely. So I know that we talked about this a lot during this presentation, but here are those 2 articles. These are some easy bit.ly links. Just remember they're case sensitive. We kept it lowercase to make it easy, so don't worry. But we have how to prevent chargebacks at your facility and how to fight a chargeback at your facility. So if you go to these links, they will lead to those 2 articles about these topics. It is very long and very detailed, though we could have gone on even longer. I think it probably took 2 weeks to write these articles because they're so in depth, but then things keep developing and changing. So they're even still today are things that I'm like, man, we got to go back, add some more. It's just, it's an ever changing thing with chargebacks, unfortunately, but hopefully this will help you get a good start. And again, Google, read as much as you can. Chargeback 911 is a great resource and website for chargebacks as well. Industry, credit card web processing website. So before we go, we want to also invite you to join the PCS Academy that was just launched recently. To join our academy, all you've got to do is go to our website, partycentersoftware.com, and click on the resources tab, and it's right underneath there. Or you could use this link on the bottom, PCS-Academy. Again, it's case sensitive, so just keep that in mind. But inside of our academy are a lot of resources to help you grow your business aside from just this chargeback thing. This is something that we have to handle as business owners. There's so much information in here. It's great for not only you as an owner or a co-owner or manager, but there's great stuff in there to help train your employees and raise them up too. And we've got awesome TrainerTainment webinars inside that portal too. So we just wanted to encourage you to link in. It's free, by the way. And if you are a Party Center software customer, you'll see on the right side, there is also a portal for customers with training videos and all kinds of stuff for our customers on how to improve their skills inside the software and all that good stuff. So that's it, guys. Candi, what questions do you have?
I have 2 questions and 3 observations actually from what all you presented. And this, I know, guys, this is a little bit bigger than our normal think tanks, but one of the observations I would say is take this think tank, gather your staff that collects payments in any shape, form, or fashion, and play this for them. It lives on our YouTube. It lives on our Facebook page. So play it for them, have them watch it, have them bring back questions to you too, that then you can contact Rebecca and Eileen and get more clarification on questions that your frontline staff may have as well. So that's why we put these things out there. That's my first observation. Share this with your staff that is accepting payments. My 2 questions is, would you suggest not selling gift cards over the phone? In my days of operations, you could buy them through our online portal. You could be in person. We did not sell them like over the phone where I took a credit card number and all of that.
I mean, like Eileen said, we would probably discourage any type of purchase over the phone because that is going to be that is going to open up your liability the most.
Okay.
In person is going to be the best. Online, your second best option, especially if you have a website that has AVS match to ensure that everything matches. That means that the zip code matches with the credit card. That's going to help you to prevent some fraud. Someone steals a card and they don't know the zip code. But I would probably say if someone calls and wants to buy a gift card, refer them to your website.
Yes.
Or refer them to come in.
Or send them an invoice with the
Eileen's got it.
Eileen knows.
You know what I'm saying?
Or
There's
send them
always
an
a way.
invoice. Yep.
I mean,
With the secure payment link, that way,
yes,
you're protected.
Right.
That is a cool addition to invoices for birthdays, let me say. My next question was, with the 25% success rate, is it worth fighting them if your location is below that 1% standard? And I think what I heard you say is set a dollar amount there that it's important to you if it's over this particular dollar amount.
Exactly. I think it depends on the situation. You want to look at what the situation is. If it is a fraud situation where there perhaps is a liability shift, or they may be saying, this is not this, I didn't do this. And you don't have, if you look into your evidence, you're like, yeah, grandma did pay for this card.
Mm-hmm.
You may say, I'm not going to win this, but if it's over a certain dollar amount, it doesn't hurt to try. Arbitration is where it's going to cost you money, but to try to fight the chargeback isn't going to cost you money. So it doesn't hurt to try. But again, I would suggest setting a dollar amount for yourself that's worth it for you.
Got it.
If I were to
Right.
get a $5, $10, $25 chargeback, I would not, I
Would
wouldn't
not
waste my
spend your time.
energy unless I
Right.
knew that I had the evidence for sure. Oh, I know exactly what happened in that situation. But Eileen, what do you think?
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I think you have to set your limit and you've got to know the why. What are the reasons? What are their chargeback reasons? And, I always suggest, talk with your accountant, talk with your tax guy person,
Mhm.
is there a write-off? You know what I'm saying? I mean, can you use it? I don't know. And every state's probably different, but, do you have a certain amount that you could write off where you could just move on with your day and not, let it bother you. But yes, I think you do have to know why. But I mean, if you're constantly getting the ones about product and service, I want you to call me. Let's talk.
Eileen will help you. She is
Yeah.
a chargeback expert at this point, just so you know, because of how deep she has dug into customer chargebacks to help them figure out why it's happening. Because that's the thing. We're not just going to say, oh, you have a chargeback. Okay, give us the evidence. Goodbye. We're going to look into it for you and with you and say, all right, let's see, what can we do to avoid this or prevent this from happening in the future? We want to help in any way that we can. So yes, Eileen, whether you're our customer or not, I know Eileen will help you.
Yeah, I'll help you. But I mean, so, knowing your area and knowing your state, I had one customer that broke a fraud ring. I mean, the guy had had hundreds of credit cards and the FBI took them down, so
Look at you, Eileen.
I
know,
right?
Crime fighter.
Yes.
Eileen's over here solving crimes.
Answering emails in an hour. Like, let me
I'm
be like
telling
her when
you.
I grow up.
She's Superwoman.
Then the observations I had is basically chargebacks have changed due to the way that customers changed since the pandemic. But it seems like being proactive is way better than being reactive in this situation. So train your employees now on what to look for, do all this stuff. If this isn't a conversation you've even had with your employees, like it's time, put that date on the calendar, bring them all in. Yeah. Because being proactive, keeping those notes, change, and I'd be honest, I think a lot of operations, and Eileen, I'm sure you would agree, would have to change those policies. Most of them probably aren't keeping good notes after the birthdays all the time about like payment type things and things like that. And so it's time to look at that stuff now, especially as we are going to enter birthday season in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So,
yep, absolutely. And this happens all the time too. Something to throw out there and just to consider is chargebacks. We may see isolated periods of time where there are more and as they change, but it is something that has always existed. So it's just being aware of what's going on in the world. And I think it's good for us to talk about it, to talk about these things and expose kind of what's going on and put a little bit of cast it in the light so we can fix it.
Great. All right, ladies, we like to end ThinkTank by asking you a signature question. And I think what you're doing to grow others is pretty obvious with the PCS Academy that just was launched. So I'd like to focus on what you're doing for yourselves to grow yourselves in this time. So whichever one, Eileen, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I guess what I try to do to grow every day is every day I try to remember what I'm grateful for, what to because it's a crazy world right now, Brian. So I'm so blessed. And so I just try to remember that and be grateful for something. There's something that happened each day that I can be grateful for and grow.
I love that. And it's true. She lives by that. She's always grateful every day. I love that about Eileen. She keeps us all positive. I would say that for myself and Candi knows this and Eileen knows this about me, but I love to research. I love to read and learn and write, and all of those things really help. Example numero uno would be these chargeback articles, learning about chargebacks, reading about them, looking into them. That's how I personally feel that I grow the most, is by staying involved in constant researching, constant reading, and constantly trying to stay up with what's going on.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for taking your time and spending it with us today. If anyone wants to find these lovely ladies, it is really easy. You can just go to their website, which is partycentersoftware.com. And that's where all those resources are. They have a blog. If you're not signed up for their newsletter, go do that now. It's lots of good information for you. And so thank you guys so much. Thanks again to our 2021 digital sponsors. And if there's anyone out there that wants to be a guest, it's real fun. You can come on. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about for this amount of time. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Candi.
Yes. Thank you, Candi.
And we'll see everyone again next week. Bye.
Bye.